Hello again. So today's topic is going to change the way you see yourself, the world, and people around you. And I'm not over exaggerating when I'm saying that this is a game changer. Today, we're going to talk about the concepts of confidence and safety, how these two terms are different, but also intertwined at the same time. But most importantly, we're going to talk about how confidence stems from safety and how crucial it is in our life to have this feeling within ourselves. A lot of people perceive confidence as a personality trait, like you either have it or you don't. However, confidence is solely based on the feeling of safety. Safety is a felt state in your body, and it determines your responses. When you don't feel safe in certain surroundings, you don't act from your best interest. You act from the place of a survival mode. And this leads you to not being able to properly express yourself the way you want to, because your brain is simply focused on protecting you from danger. Without safety, you can't fully feel confident. And without feeling confident, you lack self-expression. So we're gonna start this off with another story from my past. When I was 12 years old, I was severely bullied in one of the social environments I was in. It was my extracurricular activity, and at the time, there was no way for me to leave it. I did not feel safe enough to tell my parents what was going on, so I was forcing myself to stay in the environment that was harming me every single day. And that bullying was conducted by a big group of people. It felt like I was alone against the world. Nobody really supported me at that age. And I thought that confronting people about it or reaching out for help was gonna make me feel even worse. Fast forward to my first year in college, I realized that those patterns made me afraid of a big friend group that I found myself in. We would always have lunch or dinner together, and people would have so much fun and talk about the things that they did that day. They would make jokes, they would laugh, they would genuinely have a really good time. But whenever I was in that environment, I felt extremely uncomfortable. And I didn't know how to deal with that because on my own or in a group of people that I was safe and comfortable with, I felt like my true self. Whenever I'm on my own, I love listening to the music, I like dancing, I feel content with the person I see in the mirror. But all of that confidence that I feel on my own disappears in the environment that I learned to be harmful and dangerous for me. And that genuinely made me really angry. I didn't understand why people around me were having such a good time when I was constantly bracing for impact, expecting the worst, overthinking everything I said. And all of those expectations come from the feeling of unsafety. So here's one thing I want you to think about. If all this time it has felt like you've been trying to fix yourself, maybe it's time to actually protect yourself. So together, you and I are gonna go through the 3 steps that are gonna make you feel safer in any environment. Step 1, we're gonna start with recognizing when you're feeling unsafe. That sounds like a very simple thing to a lot of people. However, when you've been neglecting yourself this whole time, confusing the feeling of discomfort with genuine unsafety, it is a very difficult thing to start doing. Here are some signs that you actually feel unsafe in the environment surrounding you. You overthink every single thing before you say it. And it feels like if you say something wrong, people around you are going to start perceiving you in a more negative way. If you feel tense in social environments, even when nothing is seemingly wrong, this might be your nervous system trying to tell you that this environment triggers something within yourself that you should really focus on. If it feels like at any certain point you're trying to shrink yourself, or on the other hand, perform, you're also feeling unsafe. You're not actually being yourself, and you're forcing your nervous system to react in a way that is not aligned with who you really are, putting even more pressure on your wobbly sense of self-esteem. And last but not least, if people around you have a certain perception of you that you don't necessarily think is true, like some people might label you shy or introverted or sensitive, when in fact you know that you're not like that around people that you feel safe with. This also indicates that you have this feeling of danger in your body that has started tainting the people's perception of you. These are just some things that might indicate that your body's actually in a fight or flight mode. There are of course much more, but these are the ones that I came up with based on my experience. So please be aware of those things as we move forward to our step 2, which is understanding where this feeling of unsafety comes from. There are a lot of things that make people feel the danger, even if it's not there physically. And most of those things stem from your past, from your childhood, and your experiences with people in your closest social circle. If you grew up in unpredictable emotional environments when one moment you feel safe and the other one you don't, and you can't control it, your body learns to be extremely aware and hypervigilant in any environment. If you are criticized or corrected off it in your past, this might create a similar response when you feel like you have to perform to gain reassurance from people. As well as if you felt like love in your life was conditional, this also creates this self-monitoring attitude where you can't really let yourself loose and actually enjoy the moment. And one big thing that kind of encompasses all the signs of you developing this feeling of unsafety is learning from early on that being too much or wrong had negative consequences. I know that you're tired of living like this. I know that you no longer want to let your triggers impact your life and your decisions. The good thing is that you're no longer going to stay here because with awareness comes action. It only depends on you how much you really want to contribute to getting better and choosing the life that you want for yourself. Step 3, and this is the most important one. Here we're approaching actually making decisions that make you feel more safe in your everyday life, that helps you to grow that confidence. You really have two options here, and I'm gonna talk about each one of them individually as they're equally important and you can easily switch between them. The first one is removing yourself from the situation that feels dangerous. It provides you with instant emotional relief as you're no longer investing your energy in activities that trigger you and make you feel intense emotional reactions. It rebuilds self-trust because you gave yourself an opportunity to leave and no longer engage in situations that make you feel that way. It creates space for healing, which is really important early on in your journey if the concept of safety is the first thing you're coming across. However, it's important to understand that with removing yourself from certain situations, you might not be open to as many opportunities as you would have been if you had chosen to expose yourself to those negative experiences. Constantly escaping situations that make you feel in danger can also lead to isolation. They might provide you with short-term relief. However, in the long-term perspective, it is better to switch to the option we're going to talk about later. Only remove yourself from situations when you know that your body is going to have an extreme emotional response. If it feels like you're dissociating or having a panic attack or freezing, it is definitely a necessary action to step back and prevent yourself from collapsing. Needless to say is that if it feels like the situation is genuinely unsafe, and by this I mean like you're not only feeling this uncomfortable feeling inside of you, but you know that staying there will cause you harm, whether it be emotional or physical, leave, please. Also, if you're in your early stage of healing and you don't have the self-regulating mechanisms set up yet, it might be a good option for you. However, when you feel like you're more ready for it, it's time to move to our option 2. Now, option 2 is what most people know as exposure therapy. That is teaching your body that those situations that feel unsafe to you are actually safer than you think. And that expands your window of tolerance. It helps you to understand that you can overcome the most difficult situations in your life, facing your fears, and gently pushing yourself towards standing up against them 100% reduces the triggers that you have over time. It creates corrective experiences that might actually show you that the situation you've been dreading for so long is actually not that scary. It allows you to build confidence because you start to trust yourself that going through those challenging experiences is actually going to make you grow. It also prevents your life from being too small by still allowing you to have those opportunities in your life. However, I need to say here that pushing yourself too much is not a way to go with exposure therapy. Enter the situation that you've been afraid of for so long, gently, and stay for as long as you are even slightly regulated. Leave before you feel overwhelmed, and try again when your capacity grows. That means you're not failing if you need some rest. With anything new that you're learning in life, You need to have those breaks to be able to come back to practicing something. And like I mentioned, what's really beautiful is that you can switch between those two options depending on the situation you're in and depending on how your body responds to the environment. If you feel like you're becoming dysregulated at a certain point in engaging with those challenging environments, I would ask yourself two questions. First, am I protecting myself or avoiding myself? And second, does this choice make me want to trust myself? If the answer is no, you've probably gone too far, and it's time to get back to that rest before you can start over. In the end, I really want to say, once you've gone through these 3 steps, confidence is going to appear naturally. Confidence is kind of a button that can only be activated when the basic need, like energy, in our case, safety, is provided for you by you. And then obviously, once you feel safe, you can practice doing whatever you like. When talking about this feeling of safety, we're not connecting it to other people. We're simply focusing on what you can change within yourself to feel more comfortable on your own. And I understand that there are situations where people around you cause this feeling of unsafety. However, it's up to you to decide whether that is a genuinely dangerous experience that you have to remove yourself from, or wait and see whether you can perceive the situation as a growing point. Confidence isn't about being louder or braver. It's about teaching your body that it is safe to exist as you are. I love you all very much. Thank you for watching this, and I'll see you in the next one.